In Uganda, the devastating consequences of the Anti-Homosexuality law. A year after the enactment of the highly repressive Anti-Homosexuality law, human rights organizations reported numerous arrests, evictions, and even violence. Authorities claim they are protecting the country from what they consider a Western import. By Albane Thirouard, in Kampala. May 30, 2024 at 9:16 a.m., Europe, Rome. Updated May 30, 2024 at 10:39 a.m., Europe, Rome, Croix International. Share. Print. I defend my community, but I must also live a hidden life for my safety because being queer in Uganda has consequences, said Boutras with tears in his eyes. He identifies as a transgender person, a person whose gender identity does not conform with the sex assigned at birth. From the terrace of a home sheltering other transgender people, he recalled being beaten by a group who had heard rumors about him, and the stone that crashed through his kitchen window with the shout, "A gay person lives here." All of this is frightening, Boutras lamented. Punishable by death. The legislation targeting LGBTQI+, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex people were toughened a year ago in Uganda. On May 29, 2023, the government announced the enactment of the Anti-Homosexuality law passed by Parliament a few weeks earlier. Sexual acts considered against nature have been criminalized since 1950. However, under the new law, cases deemed aggravated homosexuality, such as with a child, are punishable by death, and anyone deemed to be promoting homosexuality faces up to 20 years in prison. The international community has widely condemned this law. However, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni said that, "No one will make us move." To him, homosexuality is a type of sickness. The law received widespread support in this predominantly conservative Christian East African country. It passed almost unanimously in Parliament, with only one dissenting vote. Lawmakers believe it is a necessary barrier against the presumed immorality of the West to protect the Ugandan family. The Anglican Church of Uganda said it was grateful for its enactment. While opposing the death penalty, its archbishop argued that homosexuality in Uganda is forced on us by outside, foreign actors against our will, against our culture, and our religious beliefs. Further reading. Archbishop of Canterbury upbraids Ugandan confreres for backing anti-gay law. Several organizations have launched legal action to demand its annulment, citing, among other things, that the law goes against human rights. The Constitutional Court rejected most of their appeals last month. Increase in attacks against gay people. The Human Rights Awareness and Promotion Forum, HRAPF, is one of the plaintiffs in the suit. The Ugandan human rights NGO recorded a total of 559 violations, including 268 evictions, 223 cases of violence, and 62 arrests targeting LGBTQI+ individuals between May 2023 and April 2024, compared to 176 violations in the same period the previous year. The Church, Homosexuality and African Exceptionalism. Contacted by phone, the Ugandan Human Rights Commission, an independent public body by its constitutional mandate, claimed that the law has not been strictly enforced while awaiting judicial decisions. It says it has not received any complaints of human rights violations based on a person's sexual identity since its enactment. In Uganda, we consider sexual matters private, and anyone who makes them public faces criticism, explained Alex Bukumun, public affairs officer for the commission. Supporters of the law argue that it does not criminalize being homosexual, but rather same-sex relationships and those who promote them. Further reading. The Church, Homosexuality and African Exceptionalism. Opponents, however, emphasize that the definition of promotion remains too vague and open to interpretation. Moreover, while most arrests do not reach the courts due to lack of evidence, the law has led to a form of citizen surveillance system with cases of blackmail and evictions, says Martin Musum, a lawyer at Let's Walk Uganda, an LGBTQI+ rights NGO. John Grace has experienced this firsthand and recently moved after receiving multiple threats at his previous residence. LaCroix met him at his new home, with the curtains drawn for safety. His organization, which operates various shelters, has seen a significant increase in emergency housing requests over the past year. Now overcrowded, these shelters are becoming increasingly unsafe and subject to police raids, explained Grace. This is the worst period I have ever known for the LGBTQI+ community. Frank Mugisha, an LGBTQI+ activist. In his LGBTQI+ clinic hidden on the first floor of a building in Kampala, Brian Alagonira described a decrease in patient visits due to fear of being identified. He worried about a resurgence of HIV. 5 of his employees have resigned for fear of being associated with the community. Many gays are leaving the country. Amid this atmosphere, human rights defenders point out the homophobia on social media, as well as in political and religious speeches, that accompanied the law, with unfounded allegations of child recruitment by the homosexual community. The entire process that led to the passing of this law triggered public hatred towards homosexuals, explained Edward Mwebaza, deputy director of HRAPF, and so, as soon as the law was enacted, we saw an instant spike in violence. For the past 3 years, this is the worst period I have ever known for the LGBTQI+ community, confirmed Frank Mugisha, an activist who has defended this community for more than 15 years. As one of the country's most well-known activists, his media presence earned him numerous death threats and physical attacks. He now moves around with a tracker, ready to send his location to his loved ones at any moment. Further reading. Africa. Which countries have decriminalized homosexuality? While Mugisha remains in Uganda to fight despite the risks, Eric, who uses an alias for safety purposes, on the other hand, dreams of leaving the country, as many others have already done. The young gay man, who is in his 20s, lives in hiding and has lost all hope. I don't believe I will ever see gays living freely in Uganda. Uganda homosexuality. Human Rights. Anglican Church baketh a religion. Pope Francis receives Mundia Kapanga, a Papuan activist advocating for the rights of indigenous peoples and leader from Papua New Guinea, at the Vatican May 8, 2024. Photo by IPA Agency, Max PPP. Papua New Guinea awaits Pope Francis amid struggles. Catholics in Papua New Guinea eagerly anticipate the Pope's visit as a moment of encouragement and grace, symbolizing hope and solidarity while grappling with natural disasters and social and economic instability. Putin's Orthodox Crusade in Africa. As its influence wanes in the former Soviet bloc and with the backdrop of the war in Ukraine, the Moscow Patriarchate has been redeploying its influence across Africa. This ambitious strategy is part of a broader geopolitical offensive by the Kremlin. Ivorian Methodists break from United Methodist Church over LGBTQ decisions. The United Methodist Church of Ivory Coast (EMUCI) has withdrawn from the United Methodist Church over its ordination of homosexual pastors and the celebration of same-sex marriages. Gays in seminaries. Pope Francis's shocking remarks. During a closed-door meeting with Italian bishops on May 20, Pope Francis reportedly used vulgar language to refer to the presence of homosexual men in seminaries. World News. Detail of the entrance of Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, France. Photo by Dietmar Rabich, Wikimedia Commons. Paris, Notre Dame Museum envisions grand scale. During a hearing at the National Assembly, the co-authors of the report on the proposed Notre Dame Museum in Paris advocated for a large space of 7,000 to 9,000 square meters within the Hotel Dieu. India elections 2024. India's general elections began April 19 and will continue until June 1. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is running for a third term in these high-stakes parliament elections, with results expected June 4. Haiti gangs continue to wreak havoc on health system. Between January and March 2024, over 2,500 people were killed or injured by gangs in Haiti. The political and security solutions remain elusive, and the country's healthcare system has surpassed the point of collapse. Israel-Hamas war. International outcry after refugee camp bombing in Rafah. At least 45 people were killed when tents in a humanitarian zone in Rafah, southern Gaza Strip, were bombed. This strike comes 3 days after the International Court of Justice ordered Israel to, immediately, halt its military offensive in Rafah. Opinions. Isabel de Gaulle, photo by Bruno Levy, should women leave the Catholic Church? Pope Francis closed the door on the ordination of female deacons, even though the issue has been debated in the Catholic Church for over half a century. But does that mean women should leave the Catholic Church? China-Vatican relations. Pope Francis revives Jesuit tradition. After a congress held at the Vatican where China received a favorable reception, historian Thomas Tanis offers a reinterpretation of the history of relations between China and the Catholic Church. According to Tanis, Pope Francis is reviving a Jesuit tradition, which does not seek to impose a Western Christianity. Women deacons. What seems unimaginable today will become natural tomorrow, says Archbishop. On May 21, during an interview with American broadcaster CBS, Pope Francis closed the door on the ordination of women as deacons. Archbishop Jean-Paul Vesco of Algiers sees at least three main reasons for this refusal, highlighting the complexity of this issue. Don't talk to journalists about it, Pope Francis recommends. Vatican Diary. During a meeting with Italian bishops, Pope Francis discusses Italy's vocation crisis, migrants, elections, and the sensitive issue of homosexual candidates entering the seminary. Pray. The arrival of Pope St. Paul VI to the Shrine of Fatima to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the first apparition of Our Lady, photo by Archivo Ecclesia, Wikimedia Commons. St. Paul VI, the Pope who opened the Catholic Church's doors. Who was St. Paul VI, the pontiff celebrated by Catholics on May 29? Elected Pope during the Second Vatican Council, 1963–1978, he revived the Church's dialogue with the contemporary world. Russia. In prison, famous dissident Vladimir Kara-Murza says he prays every day. In an exclusive interview published on May 24, on the Orthodox website, Peace to All, renowned Russian dissident Vladimir Kara-Murza discusses how his faith helps him cope in prison. In the poverty of the Christ. Early in his papacy, Pope Francis emphasized a church for the poor, advocating simplicity and solidarity with the marginalized. His actions, such as rejecting luxurious living arrangements and establishing services for Rome's homeless, reflect this commitment. Trinity Sunday Reflection. You are called to evangelize. May 26, 2024. The Most Holy Trinity Readings. Deuteronomy 4:32–34.3940, Psalm 33. 4-5.6.9.18–19.20.22, 12b, Romans 8:14–17, Matthew 28:16–20. Ethics and Society. La Croix International. In Uganda, the devastating consequences of the Anti-Homosexuality law. A year after the enactment of the highly repressive Anti-Homosexuality law, human rights organizations reported numerous arrests, evictions, and even violence. Authorities claim they are protecting the country from what they consider a Western import. Death penalty. Abolition gains ground in Africa. Despite a rising number of death sentences across Africa, no country except Somalia has carried out executions in recent years, according to the latest Amnesty International report. The movement toward abolishing capital punishment is steadily advancing across Africa. Christian nationalism in the U.S. It had its start in Switzerland. The Christian nationalism in vogue in certain American circles dates back to the 16th century and John Calvin but has been carried by a new wave for half a century. U.S. Latinos feel effects of care more about climate change. Latinos in the United States believe Congress and the President should address climate change, though their top priorities are the economy, job market, and inflation. Family and lifestyle. Ludovic Douay, in black, in January 2022. The volleyball player will apply to join the community of canons at La Grasse. Photo by Denis Trasfi Maxppp, From Court to Cloister, French volleyball star to join religious community. The athlete Ludovic Douay will be a postulant of the Canons Regular of the Mother of God, a traditional community in La Grasse, southern France. Ireland's massive rejection of a referendum on the family. Irish citizens overwhelmingly voted against a proposed amendment to change the constitution's references to women in the family. A gathering time. Remembering Alexei Navalny and the poignancy of his funeral, Catholic couples share advice on navigating life's challenges. La Croix Africa speaks with two couples who share their joys and challenges as they together strengthen their faith and marriage culture. El Ghriba Synagogue, Djerba. Photo by Assam Barhumi, CC by Saw 4.0 Deed, low turnout at Djerba pilgrimage in Tunisia amid security fears. A year after an attack on Djerba's ancient El Ghriba synagogue and amid the ongoing Gaza conflict, the traditional Jewish pilgrimage in Tunisia has seen a significant drop in attendance, drawing only a few pilgrims instead of the usual thousands. Death of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi. What is a theocracy? A few days after the death of the President of the Islamic Republic of Iran in a helicopter crash, La Croix International deciphers the historical roots and outlines of theocracies, of which the Tehran regime is one of the last modern examples. Vesak Festival, the most important holy day in Buddhism. Vesak, the most sacred day to millions of Buddhists around the world, is celebrated today, May 23, commemorating the birth, enlightenment, and death of the Buddha. Converting Kora Church to mosque, a new emblem of political Islam in Turkey. Dorothee Schmid, an expert on Mediterranean and Turkey issues, says the transforming of the Byzantine Church of Saint Saviour in Kora into a mosque is a highly symbolic decision and significant as Turkey tries to neutralize Christian heritage.